Welcome to AITS Podcast on AI Security. In this episode, you will learn how a hacker gains initial access and compromise AI systems. Let's get started.
You know, it's funny, we interact with AI constantly these days. Like, it feels like everywhere you turn, it's eerily accurate recommendations online or virtual assistants booking tricks for us.
It's true, AI is everywhere.
But it makes you wonder, how safe is all of this? Like, how secure are these AI systems we're using daily?
Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today, how those public AI applications we use every day can be exploited. And trust me, it gets really interesting.
It really does. There's a lot more to it than meets the eye, that's for sure.
We've got some wild examples for you all today, so buckle up.
It's like the more we integrate AI into our lives, the more we open up this whole new world of vulnerabilities, you know?
Right, and to really understand these vulnerabilities, we need to think like, well, the bad guys. So let's start with this framework called MITRE ATLAS. Have you heard of this?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So for our listeners, it's basically like a playbook.
Yeah, like a catalog of all the different ways that AI can be tricked or manipulated.
Mm-hmm.
And the fascinating thing is how some of these attacks, they actually exploit the ways AI learns.
Okay, so it's not always about like brute force hacking. It can be a lot more subtle than that.
Way more subtle.
Like this thing called prompt injection.
Yes.
This is where it gets really wild and a bit unnerving, honestly. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so prompt injection is basically tricking an AI assistant with misleading instructions. You know how you might rephrase a question to get a more specific answer?
Mm-hmm.
Attackers exploit that by crafting these prompts that manipulate the AI's output.
So it's kind of like tricking someone into telling you a secret just by asking them the right questions. But in this case, it's code.
Exactly. It's not about breaking the system. It's about manipulating the system to get what you want.
And what are the consequences of something like that?
Well, they could be huge. Just imagine a customer service chatbot, right? Someone uses a really carefully worded prompt and tricks it into revealing sensitive customer data.
Oh, wow. That's a scary thought.
And the thing is, this isn't just a theory. This is actually happening. There are real cases where AI assistants have been tricked into revealing really important secrets, all because of a single prompt.
It's easy to think, oh, it's just a chatbot, but those systems have access to a lot more than we realize.
Absolutely. And that just goes to show how crucial it is that developers understand these risks and that they're building really strong defenses to protect those systems.
Okay, so we've talked about how these AI applications that are public-facing are vulnerable, but what about all the stuff behind the scenes?
Yeah.
The technology that powers it all.
Yeah. The AI supply chain.
Is that the right word for it?
Yeah. Okay.
The data, the hardware, the software, it's all connected. And if there's a weakness in any of those links, it can really impact the whole system.
It's like one of those elaborate domino setups.
Yeah.
Where it's like one wrong move and the whole thing
Great. And a really good example of that is something like data poisoning. You know, we've talked about how AI learns from the data it's fed, but what if that data is corrupted?
Oh, wow.
What if it's wrong? Imagine, for example, you're training a self-driving car, right?
Right.
And the data that it's being trained on, all the images have stop signs mislabeled.
Oh, that's bad.
That would be a huge problem. Right. So it's not just about the AI itself being vulnerable. It's about the information that it learns from.
And that being vulnerable, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, this is not just theoretical. There have been cases where, researchers have very subtly manipulated image recognition systems where they've made tiny little changes to the data, and then all of a sudden, the AI is misidentifying things with like scary accuracy.
Wow. That's a little unsettling.
It is.
It makes you realize how much trust we're putting in these systems.
100%. And it just shows how important it is to validate that data and make sure that those security measures are in place.
It's like if you're building a house, you wouldn't use any materials without making sure they were structurally sound. You'd want to do all the tests.
Exactly. And it's the same for AI.
Okay.
We need to make sure that the data is good.
So we've got the data, and then there's the hardware side of things, right?
Right.
Like those really powerful GPUs, I know those are a big part of AI.
Yeah, they're like the engine.
So they're not immune to this stuff either.
Not at all. A compromised GPU, that can lead to data leaks, or it can even be used to change how the AI actually computes.
Oh, wow.
It's like, imagine if a part of your computer was secretly sending information somewhere else and you had no idea.
Yeah, it's like a breach of trust at the hardware level.
Exactly. And then you've got the software. And AI systems, they rely on a lot of different software libraries, frameworks, all sorts of things.
It sounds complicated.
Yeah, it is complicated, and it's all interconnected. So if just one of those components is outdated or has a vulnerability, that creates a weak point.
Oh, okay.
And think of it like a chain, right? It's only as strong as its weakest link.
Right. And I imagine finding those vulnerabilities can be really, really hard with the system this complex.
Yeah, it's not like you can just read through the code and find one line that's wrong.
Right.
These things can be buried really deep, which makes them very difficult to uncover.
Okay, so we've uncovered some pretty serious vulnerabilities here in the AI supply chain, but this is where things get really interesting, I think. Let's talk about phishing.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think people hear phishing and they think, oh, that's so old school.
Right.
But AI is changing the game here.
Totally. Like
Yes.
completely changing how these scams are going to play out.
Yeah. So we're not just talking about those emails that are like, I'm a prince and I need money with terrible grammar.
Right. No. We're talking about these really, really convincing personalized messages.
Wow.
Imagine you get an email and it looks exactly like it's from your bank, right? It's got all your recent transactions. It even sounds like the person you always talk to uses the same tone. That's the power of this AI-driven phishing.
It's like having a con artist in your inbox.
Totally. And it's not just text either, right?
Yeah.
It's audio, it's video, it's these deep fakes where it's like AI is creating content that looks and sounds just like someone you know.
So you could get like a phone call from your boss, but it's not actually them.
Exactly.
That's wild.
And as that technology gets better and better, it's going to be really, really hard to tell the difference between what's real and what's not.
So it feels like we're moving into this world where you can't even trust what you see and hear.
Yeah, and that's why it's super, super important to be careful.
Yeah.
Like, if you see a link you're not sure about, don't click it. Double check where those messages are coming from. Don't just give out your personal information.
Trust but verify.
Exactly. Knowledge is power, right? The more we know about this stuff, the better we can protect ourselves.
Right. Okay, so we've talked about a lot of vulnerabilities here, and it's easy to feel, kind of overwhelmed by it. But I want to flip the script a little bit. What about ways to fight back? How do we make AI more secure?
Yeah, so the good news is it's not all doom and gloom.
Okay, good.
And just like AI can be used for bad things, it can also be used to make things safer.
So we fight fire with fire.
Exactly. We're already seeing all of these new AI-powered security tools that are coming out. They can analyze network traffic for suspicious activity and spot potential data breaches before they happen.
That's really important because it sounds like a lot of this stuff is evolving so quickly.
So fast.
So you need something that can keep up.
You need something that's smarter than the attacks, and that's where AI comes in.
Okay, so we have the tech side, but what about us? What can everyday people do to be more secure?
This is such a good point, because even with the very best security tech out there, human error is still a huge factor.
Oh, for sure.
Right. So education and awareness are really key.
Right. It's like they say, the weakest link is usually the human. Right.
Always. So we need to be more aware of the risks, more careful about what we share online, and how we protect our information.
So it's all about being proactive, being informed, and really being aware of the dangers out there.
100%. And having those conversations, not just individually, but with developers, with policymakers, with everyone. We need to be talking about AI security.
It sounds like it's going to take all of us working together to create a safer AI-powered future.
Totally. It's our responsibility to get this right.
That's a great point to end on, I think. We've covered so much in this deep dive, and it's been a little unsettling at times, to be honest, but it's also really fascinating to see how this is all evolving. From the subtle ways that these everyday AI tools can be exploited to this really kind of scary threat of AI-powered phishing, it's clear that AI security isn't just a tech issue anymore. It's something that affects all of us.
Right. And it's only going to become more important as AI becomes even more integrated into our lives.
Exactly. Well, thank you all for joining us for this deep dive on AI security. Hopefully you learned some stuff along the way, maybe got a little bit creeped out, but hey, that's part of the fun, right?
That's how you know it's good.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe out there.
Thank you for listening to this episode of AITS Podcast on AI Security. If you would like to learn more or would like to have a session for your team, please drop us an email on training@alasad.cloud. Learn more about us on our website, alasad.cloud, that is ALASAD, CLOUD.